Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Deborah. Today we're going to talk about Social Security disability. I got mine after being on the internet for 2 weeks, 2 hours a day. That's all I could do because of the pain I was experiencing in my back. And I was actually approved within 4 months. But I didn't get my money until 6 months later because I delayed that last appointment with the Social Security doctors. Okay, so let me tell you how I did it. You do everything online. Let me repeat that. You do it online on your computer, and I'm going to tell you how to do it in just a second. I have notes. Thank goodness I had always kept my results from the two doctors I went to. I kept my results, all my paperwork. Never leave a doctor's office without your results or whatever they did to you. Always ask for it. It's your right to get it. Because if you don't, then Social Security has to spend a lot of time that's wasted contacting them, and the doctor's office, sometimes they expect you to pay for those copies. That can run amok on you. If your file's this thick, it can be very costly. So I want to reiterate, whenever you go to a doctor's, you get the results, whether it's an MRI or just a consultation or something. So I always thought when I was living in Ocean City that I had a UTI. I'm very careful with my cleanliness, but the pain in my back was just horrendous. And the doctor just gave me some Ativan or something, and that did not correct the problem. So I started thinking about it. I said, what the hell's wrong with me? So I went to a chiropractor in Ocean City, and he took an x-ray. He was actually doing his job, people. He took an x-ray, and then he told me to sit down. And this is the only doctor that's ever spent 30 minutes with me. On this x-ray, he said, Debbie, you have this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. And he was using terms that I had never heard of. He said, you're in trouble. So at least I knew what was wrong. So then my brother was in the hospital for a brain tumor, and this was in Fairfax Hospital, and his family had left. And I said, daggone it, visiting hours are over. I really love my brother, and I'm in horrible pain. I was driving my Hummer, that's like 4 hours from Ocean City to Fairfax. I said, you know what? I want to visit my brother, even though visiting hours are over. And I said, how can I do that? Oh, I know. I'll get admitted to the hospital. So I went to the emergency room and demanded an MRI. They go, no, it's going to take 12 hours. We don't really want to do it. They were really like swaying me away from that. And I kept to my guns, and I said, no, I'll stay here all night, because I was going to stay anyway to be with my brother. So within 25 minutes, I was in the machine. And when I was coming out, the radiologist gave me a look that I'll never forget. That's when I knew I was in trouble again. And it was so bad, they made me call my estranged husband, who drove there, and they rattled off everything that was wrong with my back. Herniated disc, and I had spinal stenosis, bone spurs, and I forgot the term for when it's collapsed. It'll come to me maybe. So I left feeling so defeated, and my estranged husband was not fazed. He was busy on the phone with other people. Okay, so forget him. Okay, so when I had to go see their doctor, I had to drive from Ocean City almost 4 hours, and driving with all this back problem, it just about killed me. I walked in to see their doctor, and he made me do two things. He made me bend over, and he watched how I walked, or a couple other little simple things, and he goes, check, yeah, you're going to get disability. Yeah, that's pretty much what he said. So I was sitting at Otani's Japanese restaurant with my grandchildren. I didn't have a dime to my name, and I just happened to check my bank account, and there was $6,000. And I even called my bank, and I said, where did this money come from? And they go, it's a government check. You know, Debbie, it's a government check. That's when I knew. I never got a letter saying I was approved. They just put the money in the bank. Now, here's the key. From the date that you apply for your disability, your lost income or whatever, that's when they went retroactive back in time. And it only been like 4 or 5 months. So, yeah, I got my disability. And yes, you can work on disability, people. Always go to the horse's mouth and find out. So I actually worked 5 years at Walgreens, but I could only make so much money. So I was limited to like 25 or 30 hours a week. But this is what I found out since. They really go to the total of what you made that whole year. So if you go over 1 week, don't panic, because they do a calculation for the whole year as long as you don't go over that. So my sister, who's now passed, she had renal failure, diabetes. She was on dialysis for 16 years. She couldn't do it anymore, so she decided to just go see the Lord. Okay, so she asked me to help her with her disability. I went to her house. No, actually, she came to my house, and I asked her all the questions that they want you to answer, like, can you load a dishwasher? Can you go upstairs? All these little simple things. And she answered all of them. And they declined her. And I said, Bonnie, file an appeal. I said, write it on a paper bag, because I'm sure she didn't have typewriter paper. I said, write it on a paper bag. I appeal this decision. And she did, and she got it. Now, neither one of us had a lawyer. This is where all these lawyers think that you can't get it without them. That is BS. So she was able to support herself because she was an RN, and she got enough to pay her rent. And so we didn't have to share a third with an attorney. People, you don't have to do that. If you can read and you can type, or if you can write, even if you don't have a computer, you can handwrite it out. You can do this yourself. Now, when I was studying the disability, there are certain, there was like 5 things that pretty much promised you disability. One of them was the degenerative disc disease, and that's what I had. So my sister was in a wheelchair the last, I think, 5 years of her life. Of course she could, of course she needed disability. She wasn't able to do anything. I remember taking her to the movies, and the wheelchair was in my Hummer. And I said, Bonnie, can't you just walk in, you know? And she did, but she almost collapsed in the hallway at the movies. I realized then that she was worse than any of us thought. So I ran and got her the wheelchair. But if there's a will, there's a way. You do not need an attorney. Now, if you've got something like depression or manic bipolar, stuff like that, that's going to be harder to prove. And you better have the documents to back it up. So here's what the questions they're going to ask you. Your date of birth, your social security number, phone number of 2 people other than healthcare, who know about your medical conditions. If you've been on workers' compensation, records that are already in your possession related to your medical condition. You do not need to ask or pay healthcare providers for any medical records that you do not have. Well, I know different, that some doctors expect like $1 a page. That's why I'm stressing you get your paperwork, whatever they did to you, before you leave. Okay, all the medicines that you take, names and dates of medical tests. So you need to get a binder and start gathering all this. It took me 2 weeks to gather all this documents, but you just do a little bit a day if it's overwhelming. Now, here's a crucial one. All the jobs that you've had in 5 years. Well, I was running a tree company, and I sat behind a desk for most of that part of my life, and that is very debilitating. So anybody with all these problems with my back that I had, that in itself makes the pain worse. They want your highest level of education, and let's see. So they just want all your medical conditions, all of your doctors, your therapists, your psychiatrists, your nurse practitioners, all the hospitals you've been into. You got to have all that. All your medical tests. Well, my MRI and the chart that the chiropractor had done for me, I only submitted 2 things and I got it because they were that terrible. Now, on your job history, they want to make sure if you can still do that job. Well, if you're a construction worker and you're out there, doing concrete work, yeah, if you can't do that same skill, that is a good indication that you will get disability. Now, I'm going to share this with you. This is where you need to go. I'll leave it up for a minute right there. So, so I hope that helps you guys. You really don't need an attorney unless your case is a little hard to prove, All right. Thank you for listening. Bye.